What's going on?
Thanks for having me on. Crazy week 2. I can't wait to break it down with you guys.
Hey, how about that intro? I'm kind of like,
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Get me all of them. I'm a big pick six guy, so I want to talk ball. Where should we start, B? Where should we start? Oh, that's right. Let's go down to the swamp. I want to go to Gainesville with listen, I'm not one of those guys. Hear my heart. I don't revel in misery. But I do think it's interesting on the heels of the Lagway talk and what we were expecting. And you look up and it's like, uh-oh, now the schedule looks daunting. If you're Florida and you got to figure out a way to kind of right the ship, how are you playing on offense to give yourself a chance going forward?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Florida. I mean, the emotional roller coaster of college football, especially down in the South, it's so fickle. I mean, think back to last November. They wanted to fire Napier right there. I think the athletic director had to come out and make a statement proclaiming his support. And then after that statement, they won 5 straight, won their bowl game. They smoked Florida State, and then all the momentum swung back. So this thing goes both ways in Florida and in the SEC. But here's the thing. They drew the hardest schedule in the SEC. And I think that some Gator fans had adjusted their expectations for that, but you chalk up the USF as a W. That's one that you don't even consider as a loss. So now that you throw that into the mix before league play, they have a lot of problems to fix. Offense was held in check the whole game, just 16 points.
How do you think they should play with Lagway? Like, what would you do?
You got to let him loose. I mean, he's a dual threat guy. Let him run, let him roll out and have a choice to run or throw, mix in some RPO. Just let him loose. He's a 5-star quarterback now in his second year. I know that in the first year, you kind of put the handcuffs on the offense a little bit, let the guy grow up. But second season here, in my numbers last year, when he was on the field, they were a top 10 offense. Without him, bottom 10. So his plus minus is incredible. I want to see him take on more of the game. He's got good receivers around him too, and what's supposed to be a good offensive line. So I don't know. I want to see it click Saturday against LSU.
So one of the things that I always wondered, and we'll get off of Florida and Lagway here in a second, but one of the things I wondered over the offseason was this is a guy who has largely been banged up the entire time from November until August, whether it is a variety of shoulder, hip, rib, calf, whatever. Well, there's a million of them, right? And so I sat here and I go, okay, this is a guy that he obviously needs to do some growing up to let him do for Florida to trust him do what they need to in the offense. When he had time to do that? Like, I feel like we just ignored the fact that he really had no healthy time to actually get better before we penciled him in to be a Heisman Trophy contender.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially looking at a guy's second offseason. The first one in between his first year starting and second year starting, you tend to see a ton of growth. That growth happens because you have all those winter workouts, the spring ball, the fall camp, everything. So if you throw in an injury concern, I think he missed a ton of time, like you said. That might limit the progress. And they did have one tune-up game. They smoked Long Island in the opener, but then maybe they were looking a little bit ahead to LSU. You always wonder about the mental aspect of this. I mean, that's a huge game coming up, a big rival. LSU fresh off the win over Clemson. I don't want to say they overlooked USF, but maybe something like that crept in a little bit. This team on paper is so talented. I still am high on them. I think they can get it fixed. They got it fixed last November, but it's just the schedule heats up so bad. It's going to be tough to get to 8, 9, 10 wins and be in playoff discussion. I think that might be off the table.
Let me go to the Big Ten, and let's get these teams on the black couch here, Brett. Who do you think feels better today about being 1-1? Iowa or Michigan?
Whoa, that's a tough one. I think you go with Michigan. I know with Iowa, you want to win that Cy-Hawk. I think that's should be a goal every year. You want to win that game. I think if you're Iowa, you want to see more out of the passing game. When they signed Mark Konowski, the 2-time FCS national champion, you thought maybe you get some production from the pass game. He was held to just 86 passing yards this week. I know it's a good Iowa State defense, but just unacceptable there. I know a lot of that is play calling and running, a run first mentality, but still you want to hit some play actions, hit some explosives in the pass game. So I think, you're a little bit upset about that. With Michigan, I think they knew what they were signing up for with the first-year starter with Bryce Underwood. There would be some growing pains. Of course, going into Norman is a tough assignment there. He looked a little bit uncomfortable in the pocket and missed some open throws, but those are freshman mistakes you tend to see. I think they knew that going in. Like I said, I think they signed up for that. Iowa, I think they thought they had a better passing game coming in, and it just didn't happen. So I think Iowa's more upset.
Brett, speaking of quarterback play in Iowa, who would you be more concerned about if you're one of these teams? Obviously, we're talking about very different pedigrees, but we're also talking about kind of different schedules and things as well. We mentioned Lagway. We mentioned Gronowski. I'm going to throw Arch in there because there's been this weird rumor about a shoulder injury and fans trying to Zapruder film him. And then I'm going to throw Lenore Sellers in there as well.
Sellers is driving me crazy.
Guys that have had super high expectations in the off seasons, even Gronowski in context with Iowa, high expectations. Who would you be most concerned about with if you're the team with the specific quarterback?
Well, I think you got to look at Texas. I mean, because you're talking about a guy with Arch Manning that came in the number one overall quarterback, the number one overall prospect in America. He sat a couple years, so it's not like he's an 18-year-old like Bryce Underwood. He's been there. He's been in Austin for a while, so he knows the scheme, knows the personnel, and then was the preseason Heisman favorite. I know the betting odds don't really matter for something like this, but just for a general context, I mean, this guy was expected to come in and be at least a candidate in New York City. He hasn't looked the part at all. Maybe there is some injury. I didn't see any injury in the Ohio State game when he was missing open guys and when the offensive staff was scared to stretch the field vertically. And maybe Ohio State was taking some of that away. That's probably by design. And Damon, you can probably speak to that more. But still, I think you want to at least try some deep shots. And we didn't see that in week one. And then last week, yeah, some of those throws, if you put it in super slow motion, maybe the mechanics look off. I don't want to read too far into it. Sark said he's okay. We'll see going forward. But I think you had a higher expectation. You thought you'd have one of the top offenses, one of the best passing attacks, and it just has not come true so far for Texas.
In the off season, I asked this question, and we had to go back some ways, and we did some digging, and there's not a very good chance I'm going to end up having this come to fruition. But I said, hey, why is it so inconceivable that Florida, Florida State, and Miami can't all be good at the same time? And history says it doesn't happen a ton. I may get 2 out of the 3 this year. If you get to buy stock today at a good price, we buying Miami or we buying Florida State?
Yeah, well, I think the stock price might be lower for Florida State right now, so buy low.
Are we sure?
Yeah, because I think if you're going off the AP, which we know the AP poll's a mess, but the AP has Miami higher right now. So, look, I like them both. I think it's a very winnable conference right now. Even the expected champion Clemson has not looked that sharp so far. They hung around with Troy. They were down 16-3 at half last week.
They can't run the ball. Like,
yeah,
they have no balance.
Yeah, there's some concerns over there. So now you're talking about a wide open conference. I had Miami projected second behind Clemson. I can project them number 1 now above Clemson. They showed me a lot in the Notre Dame game, a team I think is also a playoff team. So they already have that playoff win on the resume. Florida State as well. I mean, Alabama came in high expectations, a playoff projection as well, and Florida State ran all over the field, out-coached them, out-coordinated them. I love their coordinators at Florida State. So buy stock in both of them. I mean, I like them both to probably for Miami's sake, probably 10 wins. Florida State, maybe that 8, 9, 10 range. We'll see. They're still very variable, but both are now contenders in this ACC. I put them number 1 Miami, number 3 Florida State right now in the ACC.
So how large does that October 4th game for you probably loom with Florida State and Miami? Because I don't think that's how we had it drawn up. But in just a couple of weeks, it could get hectic.
Yeah, and with Miami, I have them projected as a favorite in all their remaining games. So that would obviously project an 8-0 ACC record. They'd be in that conference title game. Now, if you throw a loss into there against Florida State, might change.
That's at Tallahassee.
Yeah. So, and I can tell you that the forecasts are shifting quickly with Florida State's power rating. I mean, they're one of the quickest movers so far this year. Well into my top 15 now. Started outside the top 25. So that game might flip to a loss. Now you're talking 7-1. And with only 8 league games, these tiebreakers get all messy in the ACC. So that might flip who's in Charlotte. So that's a huge game in the ACC race, especially because we've seen SMU fall off a little bit. I wasn't high on them, and they went out and lost to Baylor. Other contenders, Louisville has struggled on offense, which is shocking for a Jeff Blum team.
And they should be able to run the ball, man. I mean, he's dynamic. I don't have – what is going on in Louisville?
Yeah, that's a shocker so far. Maybe this early bye week is going to help them out a lot before league play. And Georgia Tech Clemson, this game might go a long way this Saturday. I actually have it as a pick 'em, which is crazy.
Hey, that line is plummeted.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago you would have thought Clemson double digits, but right now I've got it as a pick 'em. I know Georgia Tech right now. I think underdog by 3.5 or 4 at home. I
Did
like
it
Georgia
open
Tech
at like
here.
7 or 7.5?
Yeah, it has tanked recently, especially after the Clemson Troy game. But with Georgia Tech, a dynamic quarterback there, Haynes King, a good running back. The offensive line play under Brent Key is always stout. So I like Georgia Tech here and a very manageable league schedule. If you look at Georgia Tech's schedule, oh my gosh, they won the schedule lottery this year. So if they somehow get past this Clemson hurdle, look at them as a team that could play in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Right. So DB asked if Florida, Florida State, and Miami could all be good at the same time. Another conversation we had off of that was, can Florida State, Miami, and Clemson all be good at the same time? Because I think that's what the ACC needs to even start having a conversation about getting themselves back into a multi-bid league in the college football playoff. Are we headed for that this year? And if not, who's the team that's not going to hold up their end of the bargain?
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, if you're not the Big Ten or not the SEC, these other two leagues, you really need your powerhouse programs to play to their potential. And the ACC does have 3 of them historically with Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. But yeah, you're right. It's hard to get all 3 good at the same time. I mean, Miami had go back. Florida State had the 80s and 90s. Miami had that early 2000s with Ken Dorsey, that undefeated team. Then it shifted back to Florida State, then to Clemson with Dabo. So yeah, it's a moving target, but they also need Virginia Tech to figure it out too, and that's probably one of the biggest train wrecks so
Prize in big trouble.
Yeah, that's an absolute train wreck. And growing up, I grew up in the '90s and 2000s. That was always a consistent top 25, even top 10 team at times. They got to play up to standard. And I do think Georgia Tech is on the rise. You look at geography. That's the one thing you can't change about a program is geography. They're based in Atlanta, which is such a hotbed of high school recruiting anymore, especially with the North Georgia area. So look at Georgia Tech as a riser. Yeah, I mean, for ACC's sake, they need all 3 of those plus some other fillers there to play up. And they might have it this year. I like how Florida State and Miami have showed so far.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not going to pull a Ravi and backpet too much. But remember I asked you the question of if Arizona State had so much experience coming back, why aren't they more of a consensus in the conference? They stubbed their toe early. But there are some teams that you did like that are at the top here. You called Tennessee or TCU was in that discussion. Texas Tech was in that discussion. Utah was in that discussion. Iowa State is in the catbird seat early. I'm not going to ask about multiple bids, but how many teams could you see with double-digit wins in the Big 12?
Yeah, well, I remember back in our conversation, I called it the most wide open conference I forecasted in 14 years of Pick Six previews.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know what? I ended up biting on Arizona State. I went for it. They returned 19 starters from last year. They did lose Scatterboo, but I like Sam Levitt at quarterback, and so far it has not come to fruition at all. He's really uncomfortable in the pocket. He's scrambling almost every pass play. They couldn't get it done. They came up short in the red zone against Mississippi State. It doesn't count on the league, the league standings, but that's a bad indicator going forward. Fastest risers are Utah and TCU so far. Utah destroying UCLA, TCU destroying UNC in the openers. So they're both up there as projected contenders. Texas Tech, we were high on since June and July. So if you're looking for double-digit win teams, I would throw Utah, TCU, Texas Tech. Baylor can bounce back after their loss to Auburn.
Sawyer Robertson is on fire.
Yeah.
He got almost $1,000 in passing in 2 games.
Yeah, 3 straight 400-yard games. That's rare company. That's like Patrick Mahomes, Brandon Weeden, and I think RG3 the last 2 decades in the Big 12. So rare air there. Baylor's, their offense is figured out. They got to get that defense figured out. But so there's 4 teams right there. Iowa State's already 3-0. I mean, they're almost halfway there. So yeah, I could think of 5, maybe even 6 that could get to double digits. It's a matter of how many at the same time.
Remember when we started, we were capping this deal and we said, so the top team in your league win total is 8.5. The bottom team in your league total was 4.5. And now all of a sudden we're maybe talking a handful of teams that could not only get to 9, but maybe 10. I don't know. That's a crazy, and they still got to play each other. So we'll see. But
yeah. You have a lot of infighting there. It's a 9-game league schedule. They're going to beat each other up. But yeah, you wonder how big the separation of the top teams and the middle tier. If they're tight together, then you're going to all go 8-4. But if these 4 teams can really separate at the top, then you might get some 9, 10, 11 win teams. So we'll see. It's so early yet, but some of these teams look impressive. I'm surprised the AP is not ranking more of these. I think they're being disrespected a bit.
Yeah, if you want my hot take, the most slept on quarterback in the country resides in Ames. I think Rocco Beck
That's
is
my guy.
better than anyone on the national scope gives him credit for. And he's going to creep up draft boards. You watch, and it's going to be like, wait, what? He's better than we think.
Yeah, especially once that scoreboard flips to the fourth quarter, he becomes invincible. I mean, I think he's led 7 game-winning drives now, and if you look at the passing touchdown streak too, he's got the active lead in FBS. I think it's 22 straight games he's thrown a touchdown. That's the longest active streak, and yeah, and guys, it's almost Rocktober too. I mean, they had Brocktober with Iowa State all those years of Purdy, and this is like the next Purdy. So you got Rocktober coming up. No, he's special to watch for sure.
Yeah, he's and I get it. He doesn't really fit. He's 6'1" ish. He's maybe kind of a meatball, but man, that guy he's pretty clutch. Let me flip over to back to the Big Ten for a second, and I get it. They're hammering folks because and the schedule it says so, and they're going to put it on Northwestern, I think, this week. Has your opinion at all changed or stayed the same when it comes to looking at Oregon?
Yeah, well, back in the preseason when I was doing my research, I was blown away by the talent that he was stockpiling up there in Eugene. I mean, if you did it on a per player basis, it was #1 high school recruiting and #1 transfer class. So I was shocked. But when I went through it, it was a lot of new starters, a lot of sophomore, true sophomores, redshirt freshmen. So I was thinking 2026. I actually put in the preview book, Oregon's my national champion pick for 2026. I thought we were a year early, but now with this new playoff system where you could go 10-2 this year, make a playoff bracket, and then really round into form in December, January, and get hot. So maybe they're still a national title contender, but they've come out of the gates a lot sharper than I thought they would. I thought there'd be growing pains, and I'm not seeing any of it. It looks like they picked up right where they left off last year. It looked like they were practicing 7-on-7 on air against Oklahoma State. I mean, untouched for long touchdowns, consecutive pick sixes there in the third quarter. So just one of the biggest blowouts that I've ever seen in a Power 4 game. So yeah, they're right up there in the title conversation, maybe a year early than I thought.
What's the game within the game with the Bulldogs and Volunteers this week? For as much as Georgia, Tennessee can, kind of feels like it's flying under the radar.
Yeah, well, Georgia's like the secret team. I don't think I've seen any highlights. I mean, you have to really seek it out. I mean, ESPN not talking about them much. You forget that they were just the 2-time national champions a couple of years ago. With this one, who's going to be able to create more explosives in the pass game? I think both have had struggles with that. Tennessee last year really struggled with Nico to create vertical passing. Georgia this year has struggled so far. You look at some of their point totals and some of their passing stats, it's not quite there. Now, Gunnar Stockton has created with his legs. I like that aspect of their game, but I think you have 2 stellar defenses. So which quarterback and which passing attack is going to be able to break the game open, even if it's for a couple of explosives, 1 or 2 or 3. That might be the difference.
Brett, would you trade Aguilar back for Aya Maleva right now?
No, I'd keep Aguilar. I mean, Nico, now you can see him in a different surroundings. He thought it wasn't good enough at Tennessee. He went out to UCLA. It's the same old story. I mean, Utah shut him down, I think 100 passing yards. Last week they lost to UNLV. And I know it's a team sport, but he is not the 5-star game changer that some people thought he would be. So, and with Aguilar, he took care of business so far. I mean, in the Syracuse opener, he lit him up. I think they scored 59 points. So I'd take what you have with Aguilar. It seems like the team is responding well so far.
So, Brett, let me ask you something about with what's going on in Westwood and UCLA with Nico and that staff. I think Orgy's out for the season in UNLV, so maybe that changes the Rebels' trajectory. But what was your level of surprise in the outcome of that one, and what do you look at when you see Westwood?
Well, I thought they'd be a little bit sharper here in the second season, but I remember in the preseason research I was going through that winter transfer cycle. They lost so many starters to the portal, and they didn't backfill. It's one thing if you lose a handful of starters, but then sign a handful of starters back from Power 4 teams. It wasn't happening. So that signaled that maybe the financial resources are down, the commitment's down. So that's one thing. That's preseason. But then to see it on the field, I mean, it was very, very incompetent against Utah. They couldn't do anything. Their stadium was half empty. In fact, half of the stadium was red anyway against Utah. It was all Utah people. So I don't know what's happening out there. It could be one of the worst Big Ten teams this year down there with Purdue, with Northwestern. So they've been downgraded a couple spots for me so far. I don't know. I thought it would look cleaner in the second year. Usually you see that in a second year of a coaching staff, but new coordinators already, new quarterback, it's just not clicking. So pretty down on UCLA right now.
Brett, kind of a random one who got a big win. We talked about Arizona State earlier. Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State. I know it's just 2 games. How are you feeling about Jeff Lebby and his early returns down in Starkville?
That's a major win for them. A top 10 win at home. Just a college football primetime moment there. The walk-off touchdown with 30 seconds left was pretty cool to watch. You've seen the reactions all over the internet, and then they stormed the field. That was the kind of spark that they needed. It had been boring a couple seasons after Mike Leach, so they needed some kind of spark. He was supposed to bring it last year. It might be a year late, but he's an offensive guy. He's got roots all over the country. I think in the Art Briles system. He was at Oklahoma a couple years. So when you hire a guy like that, you expect the offense to get there, and I think it will. But really, his defense was the difference here. They held Arizona State to 3 points in the first half, really kept Leavitt uncomfortable. And this is supposed to be your Big 12 defending champion or your projected favorite in some cases. So huge win, some momentum heading into a tough SEC. But, yeah, they really needed that, and I think they're trending back towards a bowl.
I want to get to these two because you talk about flying under the radar. I'm fascinated. I want to start with A&M and Notre Dame. It seems like it's must win for Notre Dame with your 2 marquee non-cons. You'd like to at least split there. A&M quietly is off to a pretty good start. I get it. It's 7. Does it seem like it's must win for the Domers?
I think so. Because they don't have the automatic bid path that you have in a Power 4 conference. Like if Clemson were to drop 2 non-conference games, they still have that backdoor path through their conference like they did last year. Notre Dame, not so much. And they've already been testing the bounds of how Notre Dame can make the playoff. Last year, they lost to Northern Illinois. I thought that might be a straight elimination shot right there. I didn't know how they would evaluate an 11-1 Notre Dame, but they ran the table and earned a spot. This year, the new test is can they go 2 losses, and especially 0-2 against 2 of their harder teams? Because if you take those 2 games off the ledger, their best win would eventually be USC. I'm looking at it right now. I mean, Boise State took a loss. They're no longer ranked. So you're looking at a schedule outside of these first 2 games, no ranked teams remaining. So I don't know if there's enough resume builder there going forward to earn an at-large bid. So, yeah, you're talking about if you go 0-2 against your 2 ranked teams for the whole season, that's going to be tough to make a bracket. So really crucial for Notre Dame.
Let me jump down to South Carolina, 2-0. They haven't looked really good, especially on offense. And I know because in our quarterback draft league, I have Sellers, and he is not helping your boy out, Brett. But he's got a Vanderbilt bunch that, man, they play a lot like their coach and a lot like their quarterback. They are fearless. And it's just 5.5. Interesting number.
Yeah, interesting number. I lean Vanderbilt here, actually. My numbers have it Vanderbilt South Carolina by 2. So that would impute about a field goal value for Vanderbilt. Look, I know it's easy to do. It's common to do. But look at their common opponent. They both just played Virginia Tech within the last 10 days. South Carolina struggled. It was close. They needed a punt return to pull away at the end there. I think they won 24-11. Vanderbilt ended up blowing them out in the fourth quarter. Diego Pavia really took over. Eli Stowers, the tight end. And you're right. They took on the personality of their coach. They're aggressive. They're going for the win. They don't care that their helmet says Vanderbilt and all their program history. They want to win now. So, yeah, I mean, I like the attitude from Vanderbilt, and the numbers look like that too. So I'm going to go Vandy here to pull the upset. South Carolina has not impressed so far, and then we'll see about that going forward.
Brett, the one game that I'm sort of morbidly interested in is Alabama and Wisconsin because of their head coaching situations, right? Kalen DeBoer off to kind of a rocky start. Luke Fickell probably on his last legs. That's a huge line in favor of Alabama. But I
thought it would be more.
You think so?
It was at 14.5.
I've got it at 20.5.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm not seeing it right. Okay, go ahead.
But it's also from ESPN, and they're off a lot, so I'm not sure. So Brett, as you watch that one, is this a situation where if DeBoer loses to Fickle, he's in real trouble, whereas people kind of expect Fickle to lose this game?
There's no way.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think there's nothing to gain for DeBoer here. I mean, unless they blow him out. I mean, it's expected to win. They're already thinking ahead to their marquee games with Georgia coming up at the end of the month. LSU's on the schedule. Auburn, obviously, the Iron Bowl. Those are going to be the things that decide his fate. But there's a whole lot to lose. If they lose to Wisconsin, then he might not even make it back.
He might not get to the Iron.
That might be it. He might be fired on the field afterwards. I mean, that's just, that's going to be a tough spot for him. But with Luke Fickell, that schedule is so brutal. I think that the expectations shifted in preseason for fans. Like, they might be happy with just making a bowl this year and buying another year into 2026. But that's not the case with Alabama. They want to win out. They want playoff. They want everything. So, it's must win for Kalen DeBoer.
Curious because it's in the conference, and I was shocked at the number. How about Minnesota laying less than a key number, just 2.5 on the road at Berkeley?
I agree with you. I like Minnesota by more than that number. I think they played some flawless football so far, albeit against some weaker opponents. But, I like what they've shown so far. Cal, I think, has upgraded in the power ratings, and I agree with it a little bit based off their quarterback. Of course, originally they were going to go with Devin Brown, the old Ohio State backup. Instead, they opted for their 4-star freshman quarterback. It's a tough last name. I haven't worked on that one yet, but he's lighting up the stat sheet, and I think it's turned them into a more complete team. You always have a solid defense with Justin Wilcox, but now with a potential passing attack, that could be something to watch. Cal's a team I thought we had written off in the preseason. They lost all their star players. Yeah. They had like a coaching coup. They were trying to hold out.
Is Rivera really want Wilcox's job? It was weird.
So it was a really weird offseason. But now that we're actually playing football, I mean, they blew out Oregon State and then followed it up 2-0 last week. So I'm going to go Minnesota here, though, bigger than the field goal spread. But keep an eye on that game. It's interesting.
Yeah, I saw that line and I'm thinking a little bit of fool's gold. I mean, maybe it's sleepy going out to Berkeley, but let me give you one last one. And I know Texas State is good. But Arizona State, maybe a little bit of a hangover. I say just 14. We talked about Arizona State in the opener. Maybe Scatterbo was just that good for them last year. But Texas State seems to be like a pretty live dog catching a huge number.
Yeah, Texas State's one of those teams that was considered atop the Sun Belt race. And then, of course, if you're atop of a non-AQ race and you're in that playoff discussion loosely. So they were considered in preseason. I think Arizona State only beat them by a field goal last year. So even with last year's Big 12 title game, it was a tight game. And I think if you're Arizona State, you're going to learn a lot about your locker room, about Dillingham, his ability to motivate after a loss, because they came in with sky-high expectations. They go on the road and lose a deflating game in a tough environment. How do you refocus for Texas State? And no knock on them, but this is not a Big 12, ranked matchup. This is a Sun Belt team. You're going to learn a lot about how they respond right away. And I want to see more from Sam Leavitt in the pocket. I want to see him calm down, hit his open targets. I want to see Jordan Tyson. He had a couple drops, supposed to be a first-round receiver. So they have a lot to grow, and I think that this will be an important game for them before Big 12 race heats up. So we're going to learn a lot. I think they'll be fine, but you're running out of mulligans if you're Arizona State.
All in or all out? We'll get you out on this one on Prebula and what's going on at Missouri.
Well, it's tough. I think in other conferences, I'd be all in. I think they could contend in some leagues, but in this SEC, I mean, I still have them down 12th, 13th in the conference. It's just so crowded. I did like how they responded to a big Kansas deficit. If you look at the stats on that, they outgained them by 350 yards.
Yeah.
A little bit misleading there if you're looking at just the final
I
score.
was surprised it was 35-31. I'm like, how?
Yeah. So
at the time before they got the late score, I'm like, it seemed like Missouri was dominating.
Yeah. But you got to give him credit for reloading at receiver. There's so much talent at Missouri. It's just such a crowded conference. So I don't know how to answer it all in or all out, but they're a solid team stuck in a really tough conference.
Who's the worst team in the Power Four? Oregon State or Stanford?
It's got to be Stanford. Just brutal to watch. I was up late over here on the East Coast. It was like a 1 a.m. finish against BYU. It took until 1 a.m. to see some points on the board for them. They were shut out the first 3 quarters. Passing game brutal. I think they had like 10 rushing yards the whole game. I'm going Stanford. I had them dead last to enter the season. They're still dead last for me.
Yeah, Oregon State only a 24-point dog to Texas Tech. That did not look right.
They got to learn how to punt the ball too. I don't know if you saw that. It was one of the worst punts I've ever seen. A guy like a soccer kick. He passed the ball on the field. Ridiculous.
Everybody forgets about ACC Power Stanford. Brett, we appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy week 3.
Thanks, B.